Attention, learners of Great Britain. If you're planning to sit your driving test anytime soon, the rules just changed under your feet, and if you don't know what's different, you could lose your test slot completely, lose money, and end up back at square one. Stick with me for the next few minutes, because I'm going to walk you through exactly what's new, why it happened, and what you need to do right now to protect your booking. For years, the UK driving test system has been a mess of long waits, bots, resellers, and third-party companies quietly making a business out of other people's frustration. If you've ever tried to book a practical test, you already know the pain. Waiting lists stretching 4, 5, 6 months, slots vanishing the second they appear, and worst of all, shady booking services scooping up appointments in bulk and reselling them to desperate learners for double or triple the official price. The government has finally stepped in, and starting this year, the entire booking process has been rebuilt from the ground up. Let's start with the first big change because it's already in effect. Since the end of March this year, learners have only been allowed to make 2 changes to an existing test booking. That's it. 2. Not 6, not unlimited, just 2. Before this rule came in, you could juggle your test date and location again and again, which sounds convenient until you realize that's exactly the loophole bots and resellers were exploiting. They'd hold on to early slots, keep shifting them around, and effectively block genuine learners from getting a fair shot. Now, once you've used your 2 changes, that's your limit. If your circumstances change again after that, you have to cancel your booking entirely and start the process over from scratch. And here's something a lot of people don't realize. If you change more than one detail at the same time, say you move both your date and your test center in a single transaction, that still only counts as 1 change, not 2. So there's a little strategy involved. Think carefully before you touch your booking, because every change matters now. There's also a bit of nuance worth mentioning. Some updates don't count against your 2-change limit at all. If you simply update your address or your contact details, that's free. It doesn't touch your allowance. Same goes for adding or removing your driving instructor's reference number on the booking. And if the DVSA itself has to change your test, say because of bad weather or an unexpected closure, that doesn't count against you either. In fact, if the DVSA moves your test, your 2 changes get reset, so you're not penalized for something completely outside your control. That's a fair point in an otherwise strict new system, so hold on to that if you ever find yourself in that situation. Now here's where things get even more serious, and this is the change that's catching the most people off guard. As of the middle of May this year, it became against the law for anyone other than the learner driver themselves to book, change, swap, or cancel a car driving test. Read that again. Not your mom, not your dad, not your driving instructor, and definitely not one of those third-party apps or booking agencies you've seen advertised online promising to snag you an earlier slot for a fee. Only you, the learner, can manage your own booking now, and it has to be done through the official gov.uk service. This is a massive shift from how things used to work, where instructors would often handle bookings for their pupils as a matter of convenience, and where a whole shadow industry of resale services thrived by using bots to hoover up appointments the moment they opened and then selling them on at inflated prices. Some learners were reportedly paying almost double the standard test fee just to get a slot sooner. That entire practice is now illegal, and the government has made it very clear they're cracking down hard. To be clear, your driving instructor hasn't been shut out of the process completely. They can still absolutely help you decide when you're actually ready to take your test. They can advise you on choosing a sensible test center, and they can manage their own availability so you don't accidentally book a slot they can't attend. What they cannot do anymore is physically make the booking, change it, or cancel it on your behalf. That responsibility sits entirely with you now. So if you've been relying on your instructor to sort out the admin side of things, it's time to have a conversation with them, because from here on out, you're the only one who can touch that booking. And then there's the third change, which is arguably the sneakiest one to trip people up. From the 9th of June this year, if you want to move your test to a different location, you can no longer just pick any test center in the country. You're now restricted to moving your test only to one of the 3 nearest test centers to wherever your test is currently booked, or back to the original center you first booked at under that current booking. This was introduced specifically to stop people from booking a test in a quiet, low-demand area just to lock in an early date, and then later switching it to a busy, high-demand location once the pressure was off. That loophole is now closed. And here's the part that genuinely surprises people. If you had a booking in place before this rule came into force, the new restriction is based on wherever your test happened to be booked on the day the rule changed, not the very first center you originally chose months earlier. So if you'd already used one of your changes to shift your test somewhere else before this rule kicked in, that new location becomes your anchor point going forward. It's a small detail, but it can completely change your options, so it's worth double-checking exactly where your test currently sits before you try to move it again. You might be wondering, can I still swap my test with a friend who has an earlier or later slot that suits me better? The answer is yes, that option still exists, but it now comes with stricter verification. Both learners involved in the swap have to be available at the same time, so their identity and consent can be properly confirmed before anything goes through. Instructors cannot request or complete a swap on behalf of their pupils either, even if 2 of their learners agree to it between themselves. The learners themselves have to contact the DVSA directly to make it happen. It's another layer of protection designed to stop the system being gamed by anyone other than the actual person taking the test. So why is all of this happening now? The government has been pretty upfront about the reasoning. Waiting times for driving tests have been a genuine crisis, with many learners across the country facing waits of 4 to 6 months or more just to sit their practical test. Behind the scenes, a huge part of the problem was coming from automated booking bots and unofficial resale services that were snapping up test slots the second they became available and reselling them for a profit, sometimes at nearly double the official fee. The official DVSA price, by the way, is £62 on weekdays and £75 on evenings, weekends, and bank holidays. Anything more than that, and you're almost certainly dealing with an unofficial middleman who has no business handling your booking anymore. The transport minister has publicly stated that too many learners were paying over the odds to third-party touts, and these new rules are designed to put a stop to that once and for all, making the whole process fairer for genuine learners who are simply trying to get a test date without being exploited. It's also worth saying this isn't just about tightening rules for the sake of it. The DVSA has genuinely been working to increase testing capacity alongside these booking changes. As of earlier this year, driving examiner numbers hit their highest level since 2018, with over 1,600 full-time equivalent examiners now in post. They've also doubled their training capacity for new examiners and even deployed military driving examiners to help clear the backlog. Provisional data shows nearly 2 million car driving tests were taken over the past year, an increase of more than 8.5% compared to the year before, with more than 1 million tests actually passed, up almost 12%. So while the booking rules have gotten stricter, the overall system is also trying to push more tests through faster. The bigger goal here is fairness combined with capacity, not just restriction for its own sake. Now, what does all of this actually mean for you if you're learning to drive right now or planning to book your test soon? First, get comfortable managing your own booking through the official gov.uk website, because nobody else can legally do it for you anymore. Second, treat your 2 allowed changes like gold. Don't waste them on minor adjustments you could avoid by planning properly in the first place. Third, before you even think about moving your test to a different center, check exactly where your booking currently sits and understand which centers actually count as your 3 nearest options, because the answer might not be what you expect. And fourth, talk to your instructor honestly about when you're actually ready, because with less flexibility to shuffle things around, booking a test before you're truly prepared is a much bigger gamble than it used to be. The days of relying on a third-party app to magically find you an earlier slot or having your instructor quietly sort out the paperwork while you focus on lessons are over. The system has been rebuilt around one simple principle. You, the learner, are the only one in control of your own test booking. It's stricter, it's less forgiving of mistakes, and it demands more planning upfront than it used to. But the flip side is a system that's supposed to be fairer, one where genuine learners aren't competing against bots and resellers for the same limited slots. If you found this breakdown useful, do yourself a favor and share it with anyone you know who's currently learning to drive or supporting someone who is, because these changes are catching a lot of people completely off guard, and the last thing you want is to lose a test slot. You've been waiting months over a rule you simply didn't know existed. Drop a comment if you've already run into any of these new restrictions yourself. I'd genuinely like to know how it's affecting people on the ground right now. And if you want more breakdowns like this one, clear, no-nonsense explainers on the rules that actually affect your everyday life, make sure you don't miss the next video. Subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update again.